Hello and welcome to another Tiermaker special by the Football History Boys. Today we are looking at the greatest international managers of all time. We have chosen 10 of football's greatest international managers. Would you like to know who they are?
Go ahead.
Okay, we have Sir Alf Ramsey from England. We have Helmut Schön, West Germany's manager in the 70s. We have Didier Deschamps, Franz Beckenbauer of West Germany as well. We have Mario Zagalo, Brazilian. We have Luiz Felipe Scolari, who's managed quite a few different nations. We have Gustav Sebes of the 1950s Magical Magyars. Rinus Michels of the Netherlands. We have Vicente Del Bosque of Spain. And finally, Italy's two-time World Cup winner, Vittorio Pozzo. We have 5 different categories today on our tier maker. That is the GOAT category for the best manager of all time, the best international manager of all time, that is. We have the legendary category for those managers who aren't quite at that top level but are pretty close. Influential category for those managers that have changed the game with their tactics and style. Those managers who are successful. And finally, maybe an overrated category as well for some managers on this list. Any initial thoughts?
I think this is probably one of the most open for the GOAT status here. All of them have done great things in the international game.
Yeah.
All of them have got reasons why they should be. All of them may be reasons why they shouldn't be. So I think it'd be really interesting to see who we pick as the GOAT. I mean, bear in mind, these are just 10 that we've picked out here. We could have many more. Do let us know in the comments below if you think that we've missed anyone out glaring here.
Definitely. And give it a go yourself on Tiermaker. So there's a link to it in the description below. We'd love to see what you guys came up with. And send it over to us on our Twitter at TFHBS. Right. Who should we get started with?
Let's kick off with Alf Ramsey, a son of these shores.
A son of these shores. So Alf Ramsey, of course, the English football manager in the 1960s, of course, was famous for winning the 66 World Cup with that English side. Very successful by winning the World Cup, but also in his implementation of sort of that the manager is in charge of his team. Previous managers of England had to let the team of selectors pick who was going to be in their 11, and then they would just coach that side then as well, wouldn't they? But he was very adamant. He wanted to manage his own team, and you can see that in the teams that he picked. Some of them have that very unique sort of West Ham spine, for example, that he really liked. Implemented different tactics as well. What do you think?
I think he's one of the first managers in English football, certainly, who takes on the role of a national team as a statesman type role that the national team is. He saw that he needed to manage the football side of things, but as you said, previous to people like Walter Winterbottom, he was able to take on the whole role of a manager, managing on the pitch, but also off the pitch stuff and expectations of a home World Cup. You know, they often say people like Gareth Southgate in that England role, perhaps not the best manager for the job, but he is in terms of the statesman-like role of it. And I think he fits that. And obviously, for English football, he is considered as this hero, really, for any English football fans, because he's the only guy, to this day, that won a World Cup with England. You know, people have come close, people have come not so close. The only one who's done it is this guy here.
Yeah, and what a job he did. 4-2, of course, in the final against West Germany. He has that famous moment in the quarter final against Argentina, when he's not happy with the Argentinian style of play, and he's telling his team not to swap shirts to the Argentinian players. Maybe is what's led to a lot of the rivalry down the years. Of course, then obviously explodes with things like the Falklands. But obviously, he is a very strong character. As you said, did the job when he had the home World Cup. He won it.
Yes.
Where's he going to go?
Now, England obviously struggled in 1970.
Yes.
And so
quarterfinals, wasn't it?
If we think about longevity, it was only that one World Cup.
Yeah.
And so whilst I think he is legendary in English football, I think probably he's successful.
I think so.
He won the World Cup.
Yeah, let's put him in there.
You know, one World Cup is not to be sniffed at, really, is it?
No. Successful, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to someone who coached against him in the 66 World Cup final, Helmut Schön, West German manager of the late 60s and the 1970s. Incredible records. We said it before in previous episodes on here. We talked about the 72 Euros, how he won that. 74 World Cup, how he won that as well. 76 Euros, how they lost in the final. So this was a manager who knew how to get success out of his team but also bleed through those young stars as well, Gerd Muller, Franz Beckenbauer, and get results. You've done a lot of research on Helmut Schön in the past. What can you tell us?
I think he's a really interesting character because he was in East German. Bearing in mind, for those watching, height of the Cold War, Germany split into East Germany, West Germany, split with a literal wall in Berlin.
Yeah.
And he's someone who escaped to the western half. And he is someone who was incredibly successful. Now, he's an interesting character because they lose famously to his East German side, or his country, East Germany, in the 74 World Cup, which they're hosting. And apparently the story goes, and there's lots that you can read about it, that he was so broken by that defeat to lose to the country of his birth. Really, he, a little bit like has happened in other tournaments with other managers over time, falls apart a little bit. And Beckenbauer is the guy who picks up the squad and galvanises them and leads that team forward as captain of the side.
Yeah.
So perhaps there's an influence there, but he was longevity over a period of time.
Yeah.
That German side beat the very, very fancied Netherlands side.
Of course, yeah. Massive.
I mean, that Netherlands side, we argue, is one of the best to never win a World Cup.
Yeah.
Probably the best to ever win a World Cup in many people's eyes. And so for that, you've got to consider him successful. I don't think he's legendary because I don't think everyone know about him.
No, I think you're right. I mean, when we were discussing this, coming up with the idea, we came up with Beckenbauer first. We said, should we put Schön in as well?
Yeah.
But then we have to, don't we? Because of his success. Yeah. Right, where should he go?
I think that successful in terms of what he won.
Yeah.
I don't think he's legendary, and I don't think he's influential because someone like Beckenbauer, perhaps had more influence.
Successful as well. Now, interesting, in the 1970s, he decided just before the final in 76 Euros that he was going to retire, and all of the British press newspaper are all saying he is the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah,
so it's interesting what they thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, right, let's go on to a modern manager now, one that we know quite a lot about because we've seen him very recently, and that is Didier Deschamps, French manager. Of course, we knew him when we were younger as a player. Of course, he was a captain in the 98 World Cup winning team, but he also came back to manage the French team. He's been there for quite a long time.
Yeah, yes.
Which you don't often get these days in international management, but he has been there for a while. I think he was there in 2016 when they lost the final of the Euros. They won the World Cup in 2018. Obviously lost the final in 2022 recently as well.
Yeah.
Does he deserve his place on this list?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he won the World Cup.
Yeah.
That longevity factor, really significant. French football, you could argue, I mean, some would say 98 and 2000, but you could argue that really, when you look at him as a character, he is someone who's given French football that golden generation.
Yeah, and there's one thing, obviously, being given a golden generation, but then it's also winning with that golden
generation.
Delivering.
How many managers haven't delivered? You look at England in particular, in the 2000s.
Belgium,
Yeah.
So he's done a great job.
I don't think he's the most popular character.
No, I don't. I think his style can sometimes frustrate French football fans. But of course, he introduced. Obviously, we saw Mbappe for Monaco in the Champions League, but he did give him that focal point in the attack for France at the World Cup 2018 as a teenager.
Yeah.
They win that amazingly, 4-2 against Croatia in the final. Had he won in 2022 final, we'll be discussing him as the only manager since Pozzo to win 2 in a row, is it?
Back to back. Yeah.
You can't have anyone in much higher regard than that. If he goes on to win the Euros, maybe this summer, could that bump him up? What do you think then?
So for me, I think we could be looking at an influential manager here in terms of modern international managers, one of the most successful.
Yeah.
Obviously, because he's modern, I don't think we can put him in that legendary because we don't know how he's going to be remembered. But France is an inflammatory national team to manage at times. If you think about the times they've blown up,
Dominic,
regularly blown up. He has managed to keep a squad of, and yes, incredibly talented, and you could say maybe helped by that talent, but he has kept them together and he's won with them, and that is not easy to do.
No, right. So we go influential then.
I think he's
a modern influential manager. Nice, pop him in there. Okay, moving on then. We're going to go to Franz Beckenbauer. So we've looked at Helmut Schön, West German manager. Now we're looking at Beckenbauer, West German manager in 1990 when they, of course, win the World Cup. So when West Germany win their last World Cup before the reunification of Germany in East comes back into the West. So he's obviously managing this team at a a major crossroads in history.
Yeah.
Recent, modern, social, economic, everything history. Obviously, he does a great job. He's one of the only managers to win, but as a player and a coach, as was Deschamps before, and as is Zagalo, who's going to be coming after Beckenbauer. Amazing. Italia 90s, that incredible nostalgic tournament which football fans love to tell us so much about. He comes along with that team, beats England on penalties in the semi-finals, and obviously beats Maradona's Argentina in the final. What can you tell us about Beckenbauer?
Well, I think that the fact that you can consider him such a great in terms of both his playing career and his managerial career. I know we're not looking at playing career here, but he is one of the greatest of all time as a defender. He is one of the greatest of all time as a manager. Like I said earlier about Schön, he takes over almost a coaching role in '74 as well.
Yes, he does.
Earlier in his career as a player still. So I think really he is incredibly important in German football history. Died recently, and the tributes that poured into him from not just German football but from across the whole of the football world, talking about him as this great man, particularly that 1990, and people who remember Italia 90 remember how impressive that German side were. Like you said, on the brink of a massive change culturally for Germany as a society, and he is a guy who went there and won it. I think you could stick him in influential because of how people speak about him now, but then
it could be
maybe that's where his
is he
only just success?
I think he is.
Okay,
I think successful. Right. I think we got Ramsey in there for winning one World Cup.
That's fair.
He's
enough.
done the same.
Fair enough.
Okay, moving on then. Mario Zagalo, Brazilian manager. Again, another player who won it, but also a manager who won it in 1970 with that ultimate Brazilian team, who we ranked very recently as the greatest international side of all time.
Check it out.
So watch that video, clicking the link by here. So Zagalo, he then came back as an assistant in 94 with Carlos Alberto Pereira, and they won the World Cup then. And then he managed them again in 98, and probably should have won that World Cup with that team he had: Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos. The list goes on. Of course, Ronaldo has his epileptic fit, doesn't he, before the final. It's a complete, chaos before that game starts. And I think that obviously has a massive impact on how the game went. And obviously France just go in, smash them 3-0 in the end. Brazil don't look like they're really up for the final at all. Had Zagalo won that, 28 years after winning his first World Cup, I mean, you're talking about the ultimate manager, surely. What do you think?
I think he could be the first one that we start maybe considering for that greatest of all time category. I think we could be putting this guy in the legend category. Another one who's recently passed away.
Yes.
And again, the tributes absolutely pouring in about how great that Brazil side were and how he was such an important figure in that.
I think whoever managed that 1970 Brazil team has to be regarded as one of the top level. Because the names in that team, I just named to the 98 side, but the 1970, even greater. You got Pele, for example. You've got Jairzinho, Rivellino, Carlos Alberto, players that are, we now regard them as in the top, 50 players of all time. And
again, incredibly fortunate to manage such a good side, but he got the job done amongst good competition.
And at the time, Brazil in '66 hadn't done very well. They went out of the group stage, they completely flopped. And they completely, from that moment, '66, they said, right, this isn't happening again. Zagalo's a manager. They just say, right, we're going to be training, and we're going to win this next World Cup. They were so fired up for it, and obviously he is a major part in that. So what are we going to, legendary for now?
Legendary for now, and I think we can have a conversation about GOAT
later. Should we put him
later.
GOAT so far?
Okay, for now. Let's put him in the GOAT for now, and we'll see if anyone knocks him off.
I like it. Right, Zagalo's the GOAT so far. Okay, but is Brazilian countryman Luiz Felipe Scolari gonna change that? Now we know Scolari not just as an international manager, but a good club manager too. Didn't do great at Chelsea when he was in the Premier League. Got sacked relatively quickly, but that is Chelsea.
That's Chelsea for you. He's got a CV as long as your arm, and it's a huge, huge list of clubs and countries he's managed.
It is, and we also know him obviously winning that 2002 World Cup. Probably not playing Joga Bonito, not playing that
No.
kind of football that we all are accustomed to with Brazil, but it worked. Very
Bouncing
pragmatic.
back from '98, really, isn't it? That squad bouncing back.
Getting the most out of Ronaldo when he came
Yeah.
back from his multiple injuries, bringing through Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
Obviously, he comes, superstar.
Yeah.
He gives Kaká his first taste of international football as well. So this is a manager who also knows where the future is in his team. Goes to Portugal. Does a very good job at Portugal.
Yes.
Final of Euro 2004. Of course, loses to Greece, of all teams. Who would have thought that? Otto Rehagel completely tactically outmaneuvers him in the final. 2006 World Cup comes, I think, fourth. Does a really good job getting semi-finals. Obviously, again, gets Cristiano Ronaldo into the team. All these little things. He's left his mark on so many teams. However, it all came tumbling down in 2014, 7-1.
And it could have been so different. Managing on home soil, the whole point of that World Cup was for Brazil to vanquish the memories of 1950, losing on home soil, the Maracanazo.
Yeah.
And instead, after a brilliant tournament, they were good in that tournament. They were good all the way through it.
They were.
But in the semi-finals, you lose 7-1, and that definitely tarnishes legacies.
It does. He's obviously a great manager.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm talking because I know his legacy has been tarnished so much by the 7-1 and his Chelsea time. I've almost as a fickle fan,
dismissed him.
I've kind of gone When you said Scolari, didn't you? I was a bit like, I don't know. But now I've done a bit looking at it. I think he is pretty good. He has left a massive mark on football.
Well, it's like you said, leaving the mark. Does that put him in the influential category?
You know what? I agree. I think I'm going to put him in there because
of the players he's brought.
Players he brought through. He's won World Cup. He's and he's like you said, it could have been so different.
Yeah, and we know criticisms of international managers sticking to their favourites. This is a guy who is willing to embrace new players coming through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, who you talk about there? Southgate.
Yeah.
Maguire.
Yeah.
Well, Page.
Crack on, Gareth Southgate.
Joe Moran.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go on to one of our favourites then. Gustav Sebes, the manager of what we think is the greatest international team of all time. They're by here, the magical Magyars of Hungary. This manager, we can't put him in with all the rest of them on here because they've all won a World Cup. He hasn't won a World Cup because he lost, of course, the Miracle of Bern, the final of the '54 World Cup in the rain in Switzerland.
I'm still devastated by that.
I feel like I was there.
Yeah, I know.
But this manager who comes in managing Kispest FC, which is, of course, is later Budapest Honved.
Yes.
This became the army team of Hungary. He brings through Puskás and Sandor Kocsis and then Hidegkuti for the international team as well.
Brozic.
Oh, amazing players. Grosjes in goal, the first sweeper keeper.
Yeah.
And Hidegkuti, the first false nine.
Yeah.
This manager knows his stuff and he is tactically incredible.
Yeah.
He changes football tactics so much. I mean, you read books like Jonathan Wilson's Inverting the Pyramid and he can't talk highly enough.
A whole chapter devoted to him. He is an incredibly influential manager on one of football's most influential decades. Let's not forget the 1950s. When we did that, check out that video that we did about football's most influential decade.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
We said the 50s were key. This man was key in that decade.
What do you think then?
Now, we are sullied by the fact he didn't win that World Cup, Miracle of Bern.
Yeah.
But I think he is incredibly important to the landscape of football, to English football for the match of the century and how it changes things.
Would Alf Ramsey be in this list if it wasn't for Sebes battering Alf Ramsey when he was at right back?
Yeah.
6-3 at Wembley.
The fact that, innovations to things like kit are big under Sebes. For me, I think he deserves his place in the legendary tier. Age helps because it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But he is a legend of the game. He didn't win it, and that's possibly where we can argue about it. But for me, he is a hero.
He did win, as I said last time, the 1952 Olympic gold medal.
Which was as good as a World Cup.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, maybe. Okay, right. Let's put him in there. The legendary.
And if you argue with it, there's lots of books out
No
there
one's
which
arguing.
will tell you.
I'm loving it.
The other way.
Sebes, too good. Right, let's go on to Rinus Michels. This is a manager who appeared lastly in our greatest club managers of
The
all
only
time.
one who straddles both, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in with the Barcelona team and the Ajax team in the club.
Yes.
Then management, he is the 1974 manager of Netherlands. Similar to Sebes, lost the final with probably the best team ever to not win the World Cup, with Cruyff, with Neeskens, with Ari Hahn, with these incredibly talented
It's crazy
individuals.
they didn't win.
Probably the only manager who's ever managed to get the Dutch team to actually work together.
Yeah.
Because usually they can bust. But he brought through probably the best tactical invention of all time, total football. And where would football be without that? What do you think?
He is someone who, again, people who remembered 1970s football or have read or watched anything about it talk about the influence that this guy had on that decade.
Yeah.
On club football as well as international football. And it, like it is a devastation really that the Hungarians didn't win in 54.
Yeah.
Stopped by West Germany. It's West Germany again who stopped Netherlands winning in 74.
It is. Yeah.
I think he's incredibly important. He comes back again in the 80s, slightly less successfully.
Well, no, he wins. He wins the 88 Euros.
Yeah, but doesn't win the World Cup.
Doesn't win the World Cup,
doesn't win
no.
the World Cup. But yeah, he does win the 88 Euros. So
with that Van Basten goal in the final.
Yeah.
So he has got silverware.
He's got silverware. Not the best silverware.
Oh, is there no Euros?
Goldware. He hasn't got goldware. He's got silverware.
Okay, yeah, silverware. Yeah, okay. Picture of him here is carrying the Euros as well. Obviously, though, that team again, Rijkaard, Hulle. Oh, what a team! Where's he going? I think he pushes go. But
I think he pushes go. I think he's definitely legendary. Stick him in legendary for now, and we can maybe have a conversation about him pushing up. But he, people who speak about him talk about how great he was.
He's at least there, isn't he? Right, two managers to go. Got Del Bosque and Vittorio Pozzo, a modern-ish manager and a really old manager. Let's go with Del Bosque then.
Yeah.
This is the manager that we know the most about, probably, I think. Because when he was managing Spain, this was in our... You talked about it before, the prime of our football consciousness, 17, 18, 19 years old. What I love about Del Bosque is he comes in, a lot of people think Del Bosque was there the whole time, but it wasn't. It was Aragonés first. Aragonés wins in 2008. Del Bosque then inherits his side, which is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And wins the World Cup and the Euros.
Yeah.
And does it so well.
That's impressive.
Embracing that tiki-taka style of play. He had a good... club management career as well.
Yep.
Obviously, he's hugely recognisable. Obviously, a massive moustache, isn't he, on his face?
Yeah.
But I love watching his sides play, and he has left a massive, lasting legacy on the game. That Spanish team we talked about in our last video, they are pushing that GOAT team. Just like Zagalo's Brazil 70. Right, go on, Del Bosque.
I think he's so influential on modern football.
Yeah.
Perhaps we have gone a little bit away from that, but for certainly the 2010s, everyone wanted to play his style.
Yeah.
People got very bored of it. People did get bored of tiki-taka.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it wasn't successful. It doesn't mean it wasn't people trying to replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that Barcelona side that contained, obviously a lot of the Spanish players from
Xavi,
the World
Iniesta,
Cup.
Busquets, yeah.
They played that football. Pep. Influenced by it. I think he's so influential. He's got to be in the influential category at least.
Well, they went on that, didn't they? They went on that massive unbeaten run as well, one of the best ever.
Yeah.
I push him in legendary, to be honest. I think managing that Spain team, he's got to be a legend, isn't he?
He's going to be remembered as a legend.
Yeah.
He may not be there yet, but he certainly will be remembered legendary. Yeah.
Okay. Go on then. Overrated. Right. Let's go on then. Last manager, Vittorio Pozzo, the only manager to win 2 World Cups in a row, back to back, consecutively. 34 and 38. He is the manager during the infamous 34 Coppa del Duce, Mussolini's World Cup, of course. What a thing on your back. You haven't just got the weight of the nation on your back. You've also got the weight of one of the most brutal, horrible fascist dictators as well. Almost saying, you have to win this. You have to win to show that Italy is this great country and that we are strong and we can take on anyone.
he
do.
Yeah, he won a trophy that dwarfed the Jules Rimet trophy.
The extra trophy, wasn't it?
Yeah, the extra trophy that Mussolini had cast. And then to do it again in France.
And that's what's so good, yeah.
That's what's so good. Obviously stopped by the Second World War in terms of whether they'd gone on and done it again, whether he would have stayed.
Yeah.
He is someone that really, even if you don't know anything about 1930s football, a quiz question, who was the first to win back-to-back,
yeah,
he is someone that you will remember and know about. The 1930s were really important to football.
And he won the 36 Olympics as well.
Yeah.
I'm like the Olympic man these days, honestly. He won that, so he won that in between the 34 and 38 World Cups. Yeah, I mean, any manager who wins back-to-back World Cup has to be regarded at least legendary.
Okay.
Do you agree? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
You sure?
Yeah.
Let's go on then. Right, now, this is what our list so far. We got, at the moment, Zagalo, GOAT, legendary Sebes, Michels, Del Bosque and Pozzo, then influential Deschamps and Scolari, and then successful Ramsey, Schön and Beckenbauer. Right, is Zagalo staying as the GOAT?
This is a really difficult one.
This is really hard, actually. Usually we kind of know who's going to be the GOAT.
Yeah, this is the hardest ranking we've done in terms of the top.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy with leaving Zagalo there because we crowned the 1970 squad the greatest of all time, and we're crowning him the greatest manager of all time. But you can convince me otherwise.
I'll go with that then. Yeah, right. Mario Zagalo is the greatest international manager of all time. Happy with that?
Yeah, and if you're not happy with it, let us know.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. You can give it a go yourself by following the link in the description below. That would be absolutely incredible. And if you like that Brazil 1970 team, again, on the side of here, we have an amazing print by Football Infographics. You can get a hold of one of these yourself by going to football-infographics.com. They've got this one and loads more. They're absolutely fantastic. They've got each player represented by a football and then the goals and assists as well, with extra information at the top. You can also follow them on Twitter at FootyInfographs as well, and use the code TFHP20 to get 20% off any purchases. Thank you so much for watching. Are you happy with our tier maker list?
I think I am, but this is a really debatable one, and I'm looking forward to hearing people's views on it.
Well, I'll ask you about 3 times if you're happy with it, but there we are. Right, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.